Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talking Nets, episode 41. As we continue on with our special guest from the Nets on Yes broadcast crew, the Yes Network has been showing us love. We've got none other than Sarah Kustok joining us today. Sarah Kustok and Hudson Flynn. Let's go. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. It's great to see you. I'm glad that Talking Nets, we're starting to talk more about Nets and return to play. So thank you so much for having me.
It's exciting too, because other than Ian Eagle, who we have had on the podcast a couple episodes ago, you are our most requested guest.
So, really? Oh,
yeah,
God.
absolutely.
Now there's pressure. I feel like Ian Eagle is always the most requested, but did you have Grady on? I feel like Grady's a big draw.
We did. We had Grady 2 episodes ago, and he was great. He was great. And then we had Chris Sheeran last episode.
Oh, Sheeran, awesome. You guys have had a good lineup, a good run so far with some of our Yes Network people.
Well, the Yes Network has a good lineup. We're just running through it.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, we're obviously, only 41 episodes in, and to have the Yes Network as our first guest, I think was great. We're looking forward to asking you some questions, interviewing you today as we get closer to the NBA restart. What have you been up to now? We're in the summer, so how's your summer going?
How crazy that we're in the summer. I mean, the fact that it's already middle July, but you know what? Overall, I'm healthy, I'm safe. I've been in the New York area the whole time since we were out on the West Coast trip and when the season was suspended. And we were in San Francisco coming back, quarantined for given, a couple of players testing positive. So we were asked to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. And so I just ended up then buckling down here in New York. And so I think we've all found different ways to keep ourselves busy and still work remotely during this pandemic. But overall, more than anything, just wishing everyone to be safe and to be healthy and be smart. And so I've been trying to do that myself.
Yeah, we're all, kind of figuring this out this summer, this post-quarantine summer, this still in the pandemic summer. And it's good to know that the NBA is back and they're in the bubble and they're figuring it out. And it kind of helps us as, people that cover the game feel that sense of normalcy and getting back to doing what we love. Good to hear that you're good. Obviously, we know your roots and you being from Chicago, and you said you're in the city now. I'm actually I love Chicago. I have friends on the north side, south side through my baseball ties. What would you say the biggest difference is, or if you were to compare the two, living in New York versus living in Chicago, what would you say is maybe a plus with New York or a plus with Chicago? Just give me your perspective on both cities.
Pluses, Keith and Hudson, I'm doing pluses all around. I feel so lucky to have lived in these great cities. And it's funny that you asked that because I think I get that question sometimes. And to me, they're both so different. And there's a uniqueness to both Chicago and to New York. And I think given the fact I grew up on the south side of Chicago, I played basketball at DePaul, lived in the city till I moved out here to New York. And the two things that resonate with me is just the passion of the sports fans. And I think whether it was playing sports or then covering sports in the media, you could feel it and you could feel the love from people. And I think when you look at the cities, New York and Chicago, you think about the vibe, the energy, the great food and the great people and so many things that you could find throughout the course of the city. And I love New York. I've been here now, almost a decade. So this as well feels like home. I mean, my roots are in Chicago. I was made in Chicago, but New York really has become home to me. And I appreciate so many things about the city and more than anything about the people. And I still get to go back, not during the pandemic, but still get to go back to Chicago so often and experience being back home and seeing the people that I love and care about. But I think I could never compare the two cities because I think because of the uniqueness that exists within them, they're both just places that I love, and I really appreciate being able to live in both.
Okay, quick before I let Hudson ask a question, what's your favorite Chicago pizza place? I'm a Lou Malnati's guy.
I knew. Oh, you are Lou Malnati's. See, I need to think hard on this because people so often ask about pizza. I could talk to you for the next half hour about pizza. But I grew up with eating pizza. To me, Chicago pizza, my favorite is the tavern style. So when I think of Chicago pizza, that's what I would always think about. In Aurelio's, Palermo's, and then Lou Malnati's. I toss in Giordano's. If I'm getting deep dish, I would go Lou Malnati's.
Yeah.
If I'm getting the tavern style, the thin crust of Chicago, I'd probably say Aurelio's. However, the New York pizza I love. I'm a big fan of pizza. Is something that I need to make sure to not have too much around these parts. But I'm a big fan of pizza, and I love both. But that is the one thing I would stay true to picking Chicago pizza.
Well, you've been spoiled. You went from Chicago, now you're in Brooklyn. I was born in Carroll Gardens, lived there for a little while. So, that pizza has always been my home pizza. So I can't talk too much about Chicago pizza. But I think we should focus on Chicago because, everyone who listens, to the Yes Network, they know who you are. They know, you're a premier basketball mind. But what they may not know is a lot of, the background that brought you to the point that you're at now. And, whenever we have anyone on, I always make sure I do my research. But you had your own basketball career yourself before you covered the game. And if I read this correctly, you were actually named Women's Basketball Player of the Year by the Sun-Times in Chicago.
Yeah, it was, it feels like a lifetime ago, Hudson, but and even now I still try and play. And it's one of those things where when I look at, now we're looking at Jamal Crawford, who's older than I am, and thinking about him about to play. I know we're all excited for that. And fans of the NBA and those in the NBA community. I don't know how he still does it because I've slowed down many, many years ago. But yeah, I grew up, basketball, sports, I think was always just a natural part of my life. Since I could walk and I could remember. I've got an older brother who had a decorated sports career of his own, playing football and also in high school basketball in just the AAU circuit, and following him around, my cousins, and basketball was just always a part of my life. And playing in high school at Sandbrook High School, and then playing at DePaul, and I coached for a little bit. So it was something that I think it just, that's part of the job that I do and what I do, and studying the game and understanding the game, and continuing to delve yourself into so much research and things that we do. I think it's just, I love it. And I know it's a cliche to say, but when you feel like work is not work because it's something that you appreciate doing so much and you're so interested in, the concept that part of my preparing for my job is watching games or watching film. I value it so much. And I think even now, especially during the hiatus of the season, not that you ever take it for granted, but you even more so appreciate just what you're able to do for work, because it's such a beautiful game, and a game that's really been such an integral part of who I am in my life.
That's awesome. It definitely shows the fans, the listener, where you got, a lot of that basketball knowledge that you're always working to improve. But we always ask everyone that we've had on what their journey was, what brought them to New York City, what brought them to Brooklyn, what brought them to the Yes Network. And I think if my research serves me properly, I read that you actually used to work as a chauffeur for the Big Ten Network for Brent Musburger.
One of my many jobs. That's a funny one. Yeah, well, it's amazing and interesting. I think as you guys probably talked to Ian Eagle, or whether it's Chris Sheeran, Michael Gray, fascinating just the paths that people take. And this could be said with all professions or industries, but especially in the television profession, I feel like most people know I'm going to get into TV. Since they are a kid, they're practicing in the mirror, and they're muting the TV and doing play-by-play during games. And that was not me at all. Sports was always everything to me, and aside from school, but my main priority of what I cared about. And I loved math, and I thought I was going to get into accounting or finance, and the business side of things. When I first went to DePaul, was on track in the business school, and then started taking some other general education classes, and realized how much I appreciated communications. And so I doubled up with communications and sociology, and I ended up getting my master's in corporate and multicultural communication. But I say all that to say that it's still broadcasting and television wasn't even on my radar until the year I was finishing up grad school in my 5th year. I was able to do I don't know if you would even call it an internship, but I was doing a production runner for ESPN, and it started during their Big Ten football season. But then I did work during the Big Ten basketball tournament, which was held at United Center. And I was in Chicago, so that was a big part of a lot of the Big Ten work. And, one of the many jobs, along with making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and, doing all sorts of things in the production truck. And when I really fell in love with understanding what a broadcast was and how it was put on and all the people that it took, was picking up Brent Musburger at his hotel to the United Center. And I so appreciated it because it was a great opportunity to again understand not only the insights of television and the job, and he had such amazing stories to tell, and he called many of my brother's college football games, so he would bring that up, and he had recognized that. But just the concept of just the experience of calling a game and what you get to do and what you're watching with these players or these teams and the moments of sports, that just hearing his stories and hearing the different things about it, it really ignited my passion to think, okay, is there a way that I could do this? Does it make sense that I start to get on the track of trying to figure out, falling in love with a job like this? And so, that was a small piece that started to turn things in my head about that this could be a real career to pursue.
Well, if you flash forward, that clearly worked out. You pursued it, and now you're here, and you yourself are a little bit of a groundbreaker and a trailblazer, being the first woman to be a solo analyst. Obviously, that is amazing, and it's something that you've talked about. You want, part of you've mentioned that you want people to look to you and see, this is like something that I can be, but you also don't want to be an anomaly. You don't want, people to see you as, anything, more or different or special because of your gender. So can you talk a little bit to how the Yes Network has treated you and brought you in just as being, a woman in a male-dominated field?
Yeah, they've been tremendous, and I can't say enough good things. And you said it in the introduction, all the incredible individuals at Yes Network that I have the great fortune of working with. And I think with all things, and this is why I love broadcasting so much, is that it's the concept of a team, similar to us as athletes and playing sports. You're only as good as your team and the teammates you're surrounded by. And I feel so lucky that I raise the level of what I'm able to do thanks to those like Ian Eagle and Ryan Rucco, and Michael Grady and our producer, Frank DeGrace. And I think about, my bosses, John Filippelli and John Littner, who put me in this position. And so with that being said, I think, with all of it, they had a belief that I could do this job based on the work that they saw, the conversations that we had, the research that we had done. I think so much of it came from off air and behind the scenes, when we're traveling on the road or whatever work we're doing, just listening to me talk through things. And I think that gave them a great deal of confidence. But more than anything, when they asked me about this job and eventually gave me the job as the analyst, I think I felt a tremendous deal of responsibility, not only for what you talk about with gender and young girls and young boys and trying to normalize females in this role, which I think there's more improvements to be made, but there's strides and steps that have been taken in more areas than just broadcasting, but we see a lot of that in the NBA. But making sure that I'm competent and do a good enough job to reward their belief and their confidence in me. And I'm so grateful for that. And they just, I feel like they have not looked at me. I think, you look at someone and am I a female? Absolutely in this role. But I think it was more about what type of analyst are you going to be? And that's what I really appreciate about them.
Hudson, let me jump in here.
Oh,
sorry,
ahead, Keith.
I just was listening and I have so much. This is going to be long-winded, but
bring it.
I love everything that you said so far, and that's why I had to jump in here. One, shout out to the Yes Network, the Brooklyn Nets, the Barclays Center, everyone involved with the franchise and the organization for just being progressive, being on the right side of history, doing the right things. Like I'm so proud to be connected to the Yes Network and to the Brooklyn Nets because of what they've done, not just this year, which we've seen with Pride Month just passing, and even with the protests that happened on the grounds of the Barclays Center. But everything you just said about how they've treated you and how they put you in the position. And I remember the first time seeing you and hearing you and just hearing your voice and hearing how you talked about the game. I'm like, she is great. Where did they find her? So shout out to the Yes Network and the whole organization. You also spoke about your time with ESPN, and it made me think about a moment that I had this past season where we had the Nets versus Celtics on ESPN and on the Yes Network. And I'm flipping back and forth between both because I'm superstitious, right? If the Nets aren't doing well, I'm like, all right, let me watch it on ESPN. Maybe we'll do better. And I had a moment where I was like, okay, Doris Burke is calling the game on ESPN. Sarah Kustok is calling the game on ESPN. I'm like, this is major. I'm like, nobody's talking about this. I might have sent a tweet out, but do you have a relationship with Doris Burke? I'm sure you've met her, but can you share anything from, getting to know her or, just, I guess, tell us anything about Doris Burke and your relationship?
I can go on. Again, how much time do we have? I can go on forever. And
up to you, as much time as you have.
Doris even had called some of my games in college, but I think about individuals, especially Doris, because of what she's done in the NBA. In talking about her, the versatility. I mean, we know how tremendous she is as an NBA analyst and just the excellent job that she does in calling games, but she's hosted, she's reported, she's still, of course, sideline reports for the NBA Finals, but that's not an easy thing to do, as we see her do so flawlessly, go from different roles in different positions. And I would go further to say, as you mentioned, Doris, just the tremendous person that she is. I would never be where I am in the position I am without those like Doris Burke, like Ann Myers-Drysdale in Phoenix. You look at the other individuals in different sports, but particularly with the NBA, if she was not as extraordinary at what she does, and that's a part of the responsibility. And she's tremendous. I mean, she's helped me along the way in so many occasions, whether it's having dinner with her, catching up on text, or seeing her at games. And it's just that amount of class, grace that she carries herself with, the preparation, the work ethic, the understanding of the game, being a student of the game, the player she was herself. That's something to not be overlooked. And I don't know if everyone always realized just how good she was at Providence and when she was in college. But yeah, she's extraordinary. And I think that's why, you look at so many different things and you talk about the progressive nature of whether it's the Yes Network or the Brooklyn Nets. I feel that way about the NBA in general. I'm so thankful to be associated with a league that is so forward thinking and open-minded about that. And I will also say, and you see this from players and how much players respect the job that Doris Burke does. I felt that in the same vein of just the amount of respect you see, that they're not looking at your gender. They're not worried about, oh, wait, you're calling a game and doing this, and normally it's a male doing that. It's just about, can you get the job done, and are you competent at the job you're doing? And so I have such a tremendous amount of appreciation for Doris, and just in general, like you said, for the organization itself, for the network that I work for, the league as a whole. I'm really grateful for the type of open-mindedness that so many of these individuals, and also collectively, that everyone has.
I'll cut in here before I let Keith finish it out and bring it back to the bubble and back to today. But just staying on that topic of, being promoted, being put in the spotlight based on your ability, based on your work ethic, based on your knowledge of the game. How do you think, and of course this is a loaded question, it's a difficult question that we could spend hours and hours and podcasts talking about. How do you think we can move towards a future where women in sports and women's sports in general is more normalized than it is today?
I think there's strides, as I said, that have been made. I mean, you look at the fact that whether it's front offices, the amount of females that we're now seeing in NBA front offices, in coaching staffs, whether it's those assistant coaches, whether it's the performance teams, we see it in the broadcast group. I would say when I started with the Brooklyn Nets, this is 8 years ago now, just in the time span of that amount of change, it's really exciting to me. And again, as I said, I think, more steps to be taken, but I think more than anything, it's just the understanding that, with women, I think women support women. I know so many of those who I work with are colleagues. We're also supportive of each other, but a lot of it is the males in the industry believing in you, giving you an opportunity. the respect level. And that's where I think we see a lot of that. And, the movement that has taken place, I think we're going to see more of that. And I think it's just the dialogue, the narrative, the conversation, being able to be open-minded and talking about it and acknowledging it in ways to move forward with it is something that that has started over the course of the past couple of years and hopefully will continue to grow. And I too will close on that saying too, I think that comes back to the responsibility of making sure if you do have these opportunities, you better earn it every day. You better make sure that you earn it every single day in the work you do, the preparation you do. With television, it's a very subjective business, so not everyone's going to love you, and some people may think you're garbage, regardless of man, woman, or what it may be. But just the thought process of if you get these opportunities, do everything you can to make sure you're the very best you can be, so that those behind you are afforded those same type of opportunities.
Yeah, I tell Hudson all the time, you wouldn't be on this podcast if it wasn't for me, bro. You better maximize this opportunity. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you, dude.
Good to keep it in mind, Keith. Don't let me slip. Don't let me slip.
Had to get in some comic relief. But yeah, let's talk about this bubble. The NBA bubble is on. We're getting all the leaks of information from Orlando. Guys are leaving to get Postmates. Girls are tweeting that they're getting invites to the bubble. What are your thoughts so far after now we've seen over a full week of, the guys being down there in Orlando fishing and hanging out and playing golf and doing their thing?
I think it's hard to gauge at this point yet how things are going to continue to progress. I think just from our small vision and window into what they're doing, it's kind of been fun to see the way these players have bonded and what they're getting to do together and understanding this is, while unprecedented, really a historic, situation and circumstance, of what they're sacrificing and going down to do to play. And so I think it's just going to be interesting to see how it does play out, because as you mentioned, we're a week or two and not even that. So the concept of these players being down there for 1.5 to 3 months will be challenging. I think it's going to be, for those that, from the outside looking in, it's, you got everything set and this is part of your job. And no, it's mentally and emotionally going to be really challenging. And think about the fact that they're without their families, and the job of what they're doing to play basketball is the priority, but there's so much more that's involved with it. So I'm curious to see how it continues to play out. I'm curious, to just get through the scrimmages and once games happen. And I think that's what a lot of it is, just finally getting, you think about, anytime in the preseason or anytime you're doing that, you just want to get to the games. And so, once I think they get into the games and actually, start playing, I'm excited to see what they look like, what teams look like. I think it's hard to anticipate what that's going to be like. And hopefully just everyone, once they've gotten through all the testing and the protocols, and I think the expected, before guys got down there, some of the positive tests, making sure to keep everyone contained. So there's, no positive tests once they get into it, that could cause problems.
Still on me, or you got one, Hudson? I got one if you don't got one.
I'll let you go, Keith. I'll let you go. I'll make sure I give you that respect since you got me on my toes now.
So yeah, this NBA bubble, it's looking like a reality show, and we're seeing guys doing a bunch of different things and putting on their social media and hanging out, and different reports are coming out. But at the end of the day, it's basketball. And I think what I took from this now week that the guys have been down there and reported is some of the guys are coming out and saying, like Ja Morant saying, I'm not a silver spoon kid. Like, a lot of these guys, they don't come from much money or circumstance. At the end of the day, they're there to hoop. They're there to play basketball. And, what are you thinking about calling these games? Can you give us some insight on, I guess, what you guys are planning and preparing around the broadcast? And if you'll be calling the games from home, if you'll be in studio, like, how are you guys working on right now at Yes, packaging these games? I know the first Yes broadcast will be July 31st against the Magic. It's going to be an afternoon game. What are the conversations right now at the Yes Network about, how you guys are going to produce these games for us?
Yeah, you're right. And you're right about different players having different approach. I mean, I think it's like when you're doing a group project in school, like everyone has a different idea set of how things will go. And I do think for many of these players, they're excited just to get back to playing basketball and doing what they love most. And I think we feel similarly. Like, we're just so excited to get back to calling games and broadcasting games. We'll actually, for the regional networks, all of us, and us included, the Yes Network, will call games remotely from your home market. And we're going to be doing the same type of thing from here in New York. And so we'll be together, we'll be social distance. I don't know the full setup yet, and just how the whole scenario and the setup's going to look, but we'll call games off a monitor. The NBA has feeds for us that we'll essentially be looking at monitors, looking at TV, what you viewers at home will be seeing off the Yes Network, and calling games that way. So certainly unique and a different experience. Something I think many of us have done in different occasions, for different leagues, or whether the NBA World feeds, Olympics. There's certain scenarios where, that's taken place before. Different in the sense that it's not the same as being there and watching something live. So the nuances, the details, things you pick up may not be the same. But in any event, we're just thrilled to be able to call games again.
All right, I'm going to throw one more question in here. This is a very, very serious question, so I don't mean to dampen the mood any. Our starting small forward as of projections right now is Joe Harris. Everyone knows him. Amazing three-point shooter. Recently invested in a headband. He looks great. Three-point champion. You yourself, when you were playing at DePaul, averaged anywhere between 38 and 42% three-point shooting. You going head-to-head with Joey Buckets. How much money should we put on you?
Oh, you know what? I really appreciate you saying that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's a smart financial move for you. If we're talking now, I got no shot. Just because I've been shooting in the same consistency and practicing in any capacity. So I even at this point, I'm a competitor, but I would probably tell you to keep your money and put it on Joe. However, if we're talking about in our primes, I don't know. Again, I'm a competitor, so I would say that it'd be a pretty good shootout. You never know. Joe could have a off day.
I don't think he needs it. I don't think he needs it. He should be shaking in his boots.
Have his newfound headband come down as a blindfold, so he could shoot blindfold, and I could shoot otherwise. But it'll be fun. What do you guys think of the headband? Do you like it? Obviously, Keith, you're a headband guy, so you're into it.
I'm headband all day, every day. So yeah, headband Harris, headband Joey headband. I'm all for it.
Like all the names.
Yeah,
you have to be all in. Anything with Joey in it for Joe Harris. It's always Joey headband.
I can't. Joey Buckets will always. That will be like the traditional
Broadway Joey. We call him Broadway Joey because we're in New York.
I like it.
And now Karras is Cornrow Karras because he's got the braids now.
Yep.
We're all in on our nicknames. I love Joe Harris though because as a very, very normal, plain-looking white dude. He shows that there is a future for white people like me in the NBA. I love Joe Harris because one time we were at the Barclays Center, me and Keith. It was a great opportunity. We could meet all the players. They were all just walking around the stadium, and I was walking down the steps going towards the court, and I was walking behind this guy. And I'm like a tall guy, so like abnormally tall people don't really faze me. But I was walking behind this guy, just a normal looking dude. And then I step off and I realize it's Joe Harris. And I'm like, oh shit, what?
I remember that.
He's fantastic. I think that's what too, as those who call Nets games, Nets fans, you appreciate what also just the amount of integrity and great character and wonderful people they are. You mentioned Karras and Joe, and the list goes on, but just really great, not just because of who they are as players, but off the court, just really great people and really great guys. And that you always appreciate when this is a team you're rooting for and the players you're rooting for, when you know they're good people too.
Okay, last question at the buzzer here before we let Sarah go. We just signed a gang of new players. Michael Beasley we won't include in this, but Jamal Crawford, Dante Hall, even Tyler Johnson. Who are you most excited about seeing down there in Orlando? And it could be one of our old guys. We just talked about Joey and Karras, but who are you most looking forward to getting a look at in these upcoming games in the Orlando bubble?
It's the obvious answer, but I can't overlook the fact that I'm so excited to see Jamal Crawford play. I will say when he was his first 4 years with the Bulls and when he was drafted in the NBA, I was playing it to Paul. So he's always been one of my favorite players. And I'm just excited for him, for the opportunity. I also think, it's going to be awesome for those guys to have him around is just a mentor and to pick his brain. But so my number one that I'm most excited, I feel like I'm going to start listing everyone, but I'm really excited to watch Jamal, that opportunity. Number two will give you, I'm psyched to watch Karras. He was playing extraordinary before the hiatus. We know when he's healthy and gets in a rhythm, the sky's the limit on his potential. And this is the first, he's the legit number one option. And he hasn't necessarily had that opportunity or responsibility. So I'm really excited to see what he does. And then if you want to toss in a lot of others, where I said I'm giving you multiple answers, like Chris Chiosa and TLC were playing so well, and what they're going to be able to do. Rodions, didn't have the same start to the season that maybe we anticipated. And what is he going to look like? Possibly being in that starting unit, but getting a lot of minutes. And John Musa, someone too who I think he was always so ambitious when he got on the floor and feeling like he needed to prove his worth. And hopefully he'll settle in. So I'm excited to see everyone. But while so much of the core and so many guys are absent and not available, I think this is going to be just an exciting opportunity for us to see some new faces, see the ways they contribute, and then see some faces we're familiar with. Jared Allen too, of course, Jared Allen. Just having maybe a greater role in what's taking place. And Jacques Vaughn, he's JV. I'm such a huge fan of his, and I know this is also an opportunity for him. So, it'll be, again, I know there's excitement all around, but a lot to look forward to.
See, Kyrie, he had a list of names and he left some guys out, but Sarah, she listed everyone.
No, don't put the list. I'm excited for everyone, but that's my tentative list.
You've been great. We'll let you go. Thank you so much for coming on Talking Nets.
Keith Hudson, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Always welcome. You're always welcome to the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you.
You guys are fantastic. Thank you.